Hi everyone, my name's Nicole Neal. I'm the mother of Max Neal, who goes to Grace Acting Studios. About 6 years ago, Max decided he wanted to be an actor. Shortly afterwards, he decided he had to get an agent. And then shortly after that, we were asked to do our first self-test. And like many of you, I went, how do you do a self-test? So today I'm going to show you some of the things that I do. It might work for you, it might not. There'll be combinations of things that you can do, and hopefully that some of these ideas will work for you if you do a self-test at home. I know some people do self-tests in Melbourne and they go up and they pay a lot of money for them. I'm going to try and save you a little bit of money, just a little bit of know-how. Okay, so in front of me I have a range of equipment, and I'm going to start with the easiest, an iPhone or a similar camera with an inbuilt camera and an inbuilt microphone. You can also use an iPad, and you can also use any MacBook Pro or something like that. The beauty about all of those products is they talk to each other. So moving your files from one device to the next is really, really easy because they just transfer really, really easily. If you're like me and you don't have this and you have to use a Microsoft product, I'll show you how I get around that difference in format in a second. The other thing you'll need, potentially, or may not, is an external USB where you could actually put your files. You'll need an SD card for the files in your camera if you're going to use an SLR, which I've gravitated towards. The best part about using an SLR when you can get to it, it's no different to the iPhone. It's just that the files are saved in a different way and you get a better quality picture and potentially better quality sound. The inbuilt microphone on either the iPhone or the iPad is actually really good for just basic filming. When you get to an SLR, the inbuilt microphones aren't so great, and so this is where you get to the next stage where you go and purchase yourself a nice little Rode external mic, which is about $70 on eBay, which is really, really good, and that improves your sound from your SLR. The SD card will go into the camera and that will save the file. So you've got files here, files on the camera, and the ability to transfer files onto a USB. The next thing that you really need is an online file service. So there are three main ones, two ones that I know of that the casting agents use a lot. So the first one is hightail.com. It's an American program. The second file saving service is Dropbox, and a lot of the casting agents and even just actors agents use these, so you can transfer your files. And the third one that I've seen recently is Vimeo. So you can open up any one of those. They're free. Just remember to save your passwords and your details so you can get back in and out. So the next thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you read your script. I quite often highlight the lines that my son has to read, and any other lines I leave blank. I am his reader. Sometimes there's multiple characters. If there's multiple characters, you need to change the direction that your child is working to. Read the notes in the script. What are they asking the kid to do? Is it being angry? Is it frustrated? Again, it's their interpretation of what angry or frustrated looks like, but they've still got to include it because they're part of the notes of the script. If there's multiple voices, this is where you're going to have to act because you're going to have to put on more than one voice. And you might even move around the room to help them. To help me read the script, I always have it on a musical stand where I've got his script sitting there and I can move around if I need to be. So everything is hands-free. We start and stop. Hands-free, I can move if I need to, or I move my voice around. We plan where he's going to put his eyeline. Always making sure that it's within character and changes if necessary. It is difficult if you've got more than one character that you have to work with within the script, but it can be done. So just play around with it, do a lot of rehearsing, get it right, figure out, yeah, oh, that looks all right, that doesn't look all right, and particularly where your eyeline is. Make sure that they're not looking too high or too low. It wants to look and feel natural and not that you're acting. All right, so what does your child wear? What they would like you to wear is something plain. So we don't want a whole lot of patterns. We don't want a whole lot of patterns that might move when the camera is actually getting on. The lens might play a little bit of game or a little bit of optics with it. So we want plain clothes with a hint of character. So you can, use a prop mostly your voice and your characterization should be your prop. You want to keep it as simple as you possibly can. If you've got anything on the wall, pictures of Nana, Grandpa, take them off, remove them. You want the background to be as simple as you possibly can. White or even blue. They are your best colours. You can change it up. Obviously, if you've got a blue background, wear lighter colours. If you've got a lighter background, darker colours work really, really well. You want to highlight and frame the child's face. That's what they want to see. That's what they want to hear through it. You want to make sure that they've got as much natural light as they possibly can. I don't shoot with external lighting, but if you've got it, use it. What they really want to do is they want to see your child's face. They want to hear them really, really clearly. So when you frame them up, you want to frame them up with just a small amount of space above their head and no lower than about the elbow. And this is what we call a mid-range shot. All right, so anything more, they're not really interested. They really just want to see this part of the body so that they can actually capture your child and see their face and hear them. They also want to be able to see hand motions if they put them in, but not too many. You don't want to be flapping around. It's distracting. They're not interested in that. So they want you to be as natural as they possibly can, and they don't want you to coach them. So don't say, oh, I think you should say this louder or this word in this particular way. Let your child interpret what they are doing for that character. It's not about us. It's about them. So that's the most important thing, is you let them be who they are in that scene, whatever way they interpret, whatever voice they want to use. They will know if they've been coached, and they're getting a bit fussy about that, so let's be careful about that one. All right, so I'm going to start by using an iPhone, and I started when I did my first self-test with an iPhone 4. So later iPhones, they have greater capabilities. You're only really using the video aspect of it, so it's not a big deal. But the key is here where the lens is. All right, so if I shoot, I always make sure that the camera is at the top, and when I'm actually talking off screen, I make sure that Max is talking just to the side of the camera here. So the eye line is about where the camera is, not too high, not too low, so it's like they're actually talking. So when I'm actually reading for him, I'll be standing here. That makes this a little bit difficult. How do I get the camera to be this high? I've used all sorts of things. I have stood it on chairs, on boxes, I've zip tied the thing, I use a musical stand that goes quite up, a microphone stand, anything that you can to get that to the height that you need, and then you make sure that you do a test run beforehand. But remember, your line of sight should just be to the kid here. If you turn that over here, and the kid is talking here, the camera stand here, it's going to look funny. So please make sure the lens is in the right spot. We also want to shoot in landscape, not in, what do you call that one, horizontal, portrait, so landscape, because it'll actually fill up the whole frame when we go to edit the video. So at the end of the audition, read your audition notes. They'll quite often ask for a piece to camera where the child will look straight down the lens and it will be them. They can wear their normal clothes if they really want to see what they're like in real life. Sometimes I use an iPhone and I will actually do a portrait version. The problem with that is that the files will end up with a black piece on either side. You've got to pull them too far back from the kid. They won't be able to hear what they're saying. I'll tell you in a second what they'll include on it. So you can go back to the DSLR here, where you can actually pan up, pan down, make sure it's slow, and then you'll get the whole frame in with nothing on either side. So there are two ways that you can do the piece of camera. The audition notes usually tell you what they want in that. Sometimes they're quite short, sometimes they're quite long. Mostly they'll ask for the child's name, where they live, how old they are, who their aging is, and what experience they've had. A good thing to do is actually get your child to practice this 2 or 3 times, and in the past I've actually had just off camera maybe a little dot point list about the eye line where your child is, so that they can quickly read if they forget. Don't be afraid to do 2 or 3 or maybe 4 shots of this. It takes a little while for them to be able to say all that they would like to say, and occasionally you might have to edit a piece in if they've gone, oh, I really wanted to include that. Go back in, cut it back in, that's all good. No agent, that's fine. You just say, I'm currently freelance, and that will actually be sufficient. All right, so you've shot your scenes, which is in the medium frame. You've also shot your ID, which is always in the full portrait shot from head down to toe, so they can see the whole of your child. And what do we do now? How do we pop it all together? And this is where it can be a bit tricky or a bit easy, depending on what you use and what kind of electronic equipment you've got and technological know-how. I've got a couple of really easy things that you can do, really simple. If you get really stuck with any eye product, your kids are using iPads, get them to help you out because they'll be able to figure out what to do. Okay, so the beauty of the iPhone and the iPad and the Mac is they all talk to one another. So as long as I put AirDrop on my iPhone or my iPad, and I have AirDrop receiving on the MacBook, the files will easily transfer from here to this. Then you open up iMovie and you can start editing straight away. Okay, so the next issue is, how do I get my files off my iPhone and onto my Microsoft computer? So I do this one of two ways. The first way is I can AirDrop them, and if you're not sure how to AirDrop, get your kid to help you, to my son's MacBook, and then my son places the files onto a USB drive. Now the USB drive is standard, simply fits into the side of most computers where it's the hole there, and then I'm able to get the files straight off that USB drive. The other way, if you don't have USB drive, which is what I mentioned earlier, make sure that you've got a Dropbox on your phone and you've also got Dropbox on your computer. It's easy enough to do. You just get into the internet, you'll open it up, Dropbox, you pop in your details, and you'll be able to actually upload it into Dropbox and then drop it down into your computer so that you can work on it while you're actually doing the video software.
Once you get them to your device, it's really important that you open up the file. So for today I have a race acting test, self-test, so that you don't have to call it that, you can call it whatever you like. I have two different folders. So the first one is where my video files go, and this is where all the raw footage goes in, and you can see I've taken several shots of the scene that Max has been asked to do on this occasion, and then I've done 2 talk to cameras, so this is will go at the end of the self-tape. And the other file though is I will listen to these and I will decide which one is the best version of the take. You can delete other ones that you don't like, and which one of these I'm going to use to do the piece to camera. I have another file which I call finished files. In that finished files folder, I have the 2 pieces that I'm going to include in my self-tape. So I've got this one, I'll call it use this one, and this one, video to camera. Again, you can call them whatever you like, as long as you know that they're the ones you're going to use. So once we've got the files that we want to put into our self-test tape, it makes it a lot simpler. The reason that I have the other file is just in case I make some mistakes. So very early on in the piece, I did make a lot of mistakes. So I've still got the raw footage here. I can go back and download that again if I make a mistake at any stage during the self-tape production. So it's just really having a backup plan. It's a really important thing. I'll need to close that one down so I can use these files. And I'm going to use a product today called Windows Movie Maker. So Windows Movie Maker is a video producing program. Apple has a similar one called iMovie. Essentially, they all have the same sort of functionality. You can do the same sorts of things with them. Simply drop video files in there. You can trim them down to make whatever you want. But it's making sure that you understand the process. So to look at this, in the first place, you'd be looking, oh my goodness me, what do I need to do? So I'm going to walk you through that process now. It's really important that when you make a self-tape, that you understand whatever finished product that you've got, that you do not put it on any online platform like Facebook or unless, of course, the casting agent asks you to. Because if you do share it with anything other than the casting agent, you might actually rule yourself out of the particular part you're going for. So make sure that once you've done that, the finished product just stays yours, and I have another folder where I keep all the files that I've done. So the first thing I want to do is I want to put in a tile, or a title tile. So if I go back to the home here, I've pressed this title and it brings up this screen here. There's a place for me to actually write some information in here. So this is sort of like your first introduction. So what you would like to do is you need to type in whatever your child's name is. So Fred Blur today. You need to put down if the child has an agent, what their agency name is. So today we're Get Smart Agency. You will also need to put in the email address of the agent that you're using, their phone number, whatever that phone number is. And then the last thing you want to include, and we won't be able to fit everything in here, so we actually need to change the size of the font here. So I need to go up to the text editing tools here, and I really want to reduce that down to about 28, actually maybe a little bit more than that, 36, to make sure everything fits in. The last thing I want to include on this title is what part I'm going for. So today we're going to call this one Ginger, and we're going to say that it's a TV series. It could be a movie part that we're going for, it could be a web series, it could be whatever. So basically, this is all the information that the casting agents need to see about you, who you are, where they can contact you, and what part you're actually going for, who you are. Sometimes you'll be given one scene to actually shoot. Sometimes you'll be given more than one. As a reference point for the casting agent, I always put another title in here. In Movie Maker, if it jumps into the front, like it has on this particular occasion, I simply hold my mouse down and drag it back behind my first title, and you'll see that it is shifted. I click on the My Movie, because it'll bring up over here where I can write some things now. And as I said, sometimes you'll get two scenes. We're going to call this one Ginger Scene 1. And then I open up the writing so that it's all on one level, usually about the middle if you like. We're right now to put in our first video. So I go into this Add Files, and it opens up where I've actually saved my files. And if it doesn't, you simply go into the videos to find out where it's doing that. And the first piece that I want to put in is this video here, which is the scene for this particular part that your child is going for. When I shoot the medium shot or any scene, I always say action, and I leave a little bit of room before my son goes into his character. So it gives him a chance to get into character, to think about what he's going to do. Also, the important part of this is it gives you a little bit of room to trim this down. So we're going to be doing that in a second. These grey spikes are actually audio spikes. So I can see clearly where he started the scene in terms of his audio and where he's finished the scene in terms of his audio. So what I need to do now is I need to trim it. Otherwise you'll hear me saying action and him probably saying no, you're right to go, or something like that. So make sure you give yourself a couple of seconds so that they can get ready for their scene. This button up here is a video editing tool, and you can see that it's got a trim tool here, a start point and the end point. So I can now trim the start and the end of this video. To do that, I just grab this little black line and I bring it up to about where that video spike is. So I put a start point there, and you'll notice that the video is now trimmed to about where the audio is starting. I then need to move this black line right to the end, and I can actually bring this back. Again, watching the video, again, I would do this with audio on. Make sure that he's finished the scene, maybe give half a nanosecond, and then I set an end point. So far, I have my title, I have which scene we're doing, and I have my first film. So the next thing I do is I actually add the next video. I've chosen this one here. On this occasion, this was shot with an Apple iPhone, and this one was shot with a Canon DSLR. So you can see that this one actually has no space on the outside of the video, whereas when I import this one, there's actually black veins to the side of the video. I can avoid this, just leave this one myself, by using the camera just going or scanning up and down so that I don't have an issue with with needing him to be in the full shot the whole time. So we'll click on that one and we'll put that in, and it'll take a little while to load normally, but this one's preloaded. So the next thing I need to do is go back and trim. On this one, obviously I've said something to my son before he's actually started his Vista camera. So what I need to do is start that trim. So again, I take the black line and I'll do, it's terrible there, so I'll be scaling back and forth and I'll set the trim point. Again, I'll be doing it with a set of headphones. Then I want the black line to be moving all the way to the end. And then I'll bring it back again using headphones. I can see that there's a drop in audio there. I can see by his actions where he's finished his Vista camera. Didn't leave much room there on that occasion. Make sure that they look okay when they're finished. About there, and then we'll set an input. So far we've actually finished our video and it hasn't taken too long at all. What we need to do now is two things. We need to save the working file and we need to finish a file. So we always save a working file first. The working file means that if you make a mistake, you can go back in and change it. If when you review the whole video that you don't like it, you can take out the file that you used and use any of the other files that you've already got. Or if you feel like you need to go back and reshoot because the audio was terrible, you can go back in and you can keep adding those files. If you close the file off at this point, you won't be able to get back in. So I'm going to save this file. So I go up here and I click on Save Project As. This gives me an opportunity to show what the name of the video is. So I'm going to call this one Ginger Working File. And that just lets me know that I can get back into that file if I need to. And I'm going to save that. It will be saved as a Movie Maker file. And up the top here, you can see that it's called the Ginger Working File now rather than My Movie. So I've saved this working file. I'll show you what that looks like in a second. The next thing you need to do is you have to close over the video so that it saves as an MP4. An MP4 is the file type that we need to be able to send over the online platforms such as Vimeo or Dropbox or Hightail, which the casting agents will use. And I also need to have this file so that I can reduce it down in size, and I'll show you what that problem is in a second. So I'm going to save it. Now you can save it down here, but to different sorts of settings, so iPhones and Android phones and all that sort of stuff. But a good friend of mine who is a media teacher suggests not to do this in Movie Maker because it doesn't actually save very well and the quality of the file isn't all that good. But if we save it as the recommended for this project, it will actually close off the file, and we're going to call this one Ginger Finished. And you'll see that it saves finished. It will save as an MP4 file. Oops, got finished wrong, we'll get rid of that. Alright, so we have a Ginger Finished, we need to save that. And during this little phase here, it will actually close the file down and make sure that you have got an MP4 file that you can use. At this stage, this file is still too big to send to any casting agent. All of the online platforms, remember that's Dropbox, Vimeo, Hightail. So when I save this file over, they can be anything 200, they can be 250, they could be as low as 131 megabytes. Either way, that is still too large to put onto any of these online platforms. So the next thing I need to do is I need to be able to reduce that file size down. So when this is finished actually reducing, or sorry, finishing closing off and saving my movie, I will then show you how I do the reduction of the file. Because a lot of people go, what am I going to do? I've got a really handy little tool that you can use that is a Mac product or a Windows product, and it's called Format Factory. Okay, so now Movie Maker has saved our finished file. So I'm going to open up the folder. So you can see I've got the Ginger Finished and the Ginger Working File. as well as the 2 videos that I've used to make the Movie Maker self-tape. If I go over to here and I click on this file and then I right click my mouse, I come up with the Properties tab. If I look at the properties, it tells me that this video is currently 187 megabytes, and this is simply too large. So this is where we need the file reduction software. So this is Format Factory. Again, you will have an opportunity to choose which one you use, whether it's a Mac one or a Windows one. I've got the Windows one here. When you first download it, it's going to ask you to decide where you want your output folder. I saved my folder as FF Output, or Format Factory Output, and that means when I have finished my folder, or when I finish my file, I know where I can grab that particular folder from. So what I need to do is I need to import that large file of 181 megabytes into this particular program here. I'm going to choose this option over to the left, which is called All to Mobile Device, and I click that up and it gives me lots of options. The one that I always use is an iPad 720. So 720p is standard definition video, and MPEG-4, well, that's just an MP4. I check that I've chosen this one, and all I have to do is click OK. And then it will ask me where I want to actually just check my output setting if I want. I'm not going to do that because mine's already ready to go, and I can see down here it's in my FF output on my C drive. And then I go up to here where it says add the file. And I'm going to use, it's actually opened up the folder that I'm working from. Again, as long as you know where you've put things, you can go back. You'll notice that the Word or the Movie Maker file isn't here because it's saved in a different format. It hasn't been lost. It's still there. You can still go back into it later. I'm going to pick this folder, or this file called Ginger Finished, which is that large one, and I'm going to open it. And you can see that it's actually been placed into here. You can see that the size is quite large, that it's an MP4, and what we need to do then is press OK. Once we recheck everything, that we've got the Ginger Finished MP4, it's that large file, we would like to reduce it down to the mobile device, and we would like to be picking it up from the FF Output folder, we're right to click Start. So, to make sure I've got the right folder, I'm going to go into my Output folder up here, and I can see that this is the Ginger Finished. Now, if I click on it and I check the properties, it is now down to 31 megabytes. This is the right size that we want. This is what we need to be able to send to casting agents. What I need to do is I'm going to save it from here, and I'm going to rename it. So I click on the icon, and I'm going to rename this Ginger Finished 2. And the reason that I do that is because I've already got a Ginger Finished one in my video file. So I'm going to copy that. That will stay in my in my other folder. So I've got a backup. I go into my other files, my finished files, and I'm going to paste it into here. So I've now got the small file, the large file, the other things that I've been using during this time. Before I send this one, I'm actually going to copy it, and I'm going to make a final version of it. In this copied one, I'm going to rename it whatever it is that I'm going to send it. So I think it was called, so Fred Blur, your child's name, and I'm going to call it Ginger, and call it Audition. And this is the file that I'm actually going to send to the casting agents. So it will have your child's name, whatever the piece that they're going to do, and the fact that they're auditioning for that piece. And then all I need to do is put that into whatever platform the casting agent is using. It's really important, and I'll reiterate this again, that you do not put any of these files on any social media. It's great to be offered an audition for a major casting agent. It's great to be offered an audition for a major film or TV series, but it's not great to miss out because you haven't followed their rules, and unfortunately casting agents have very, very long memories. Look, I hope this video has helped you. It's given you a bit of an insight of how to make a self-tape. I made a lot of mistakes very early on. I've tried to, as best possible in my knowledge, to give you as many tricks and tips as I can to make sure that you can back yourself if you do make a mistake. But overall, have a go. It's been a real privilege to produce this video for you. Thank you very much for listening.